Ta-da.
Ta-dum!
We're getting more and more elaborate with how like the sound waves are affecting our microphones in the beginning of these intros, and I think that's a good thing.
You know, we're becoming masters of our own microphones, you know? You learn how much distance between lips to the, you know, fuzzy part of the microphone. See, the fuzzy part of the microphone, this is how you can tell we're professionals, right?
The fuzzy part. That's what I call it. That's what I
part.
call it. Well, you know what? We don't get paid the big bucks to just talk about the fuzzy parts of microphones. We get paid the zero amount of dollars to actually talk about One Piece because we are the Grand Line Tourist podcast, a chapter by chapter re-examining of Ichiro Oda's One Piece manga. I am your tour guide, Eric Sivu. I added my middle initial that time.
Whoa!
Yeah.
See? I don't think I usually with someone you've known for quite a while, eventually you just learn their middle name. It comes up in conversation. This is the first for me. This is a big reveal. I didn't have any part of it, and now I know it's C.
I don't have any part of your middle name either.
Oh, well, you know what? Guess what? My name is Jacob S. Jarecki. And, hopefully we don't get any fraud going on, because I don't want anybody impersonating me, because I am the titular tourist. And it would be bad if you could just replace me. I mean, what would the podcast be if I could just go away and be a different tourist? I like to think I'm unique, but I'm just not sure.
Yeah, this is what it is. Welcome back, folks. I'm super happy to have you all listening in and all that good stuff. But before we read the itinerary, Jacob, you mentioned that we do have another letter.
A letter at port. Yes, we have a friend of the pod, Christian, writing us in one more time. Well, not one more time. He may write us in as much as he wants, but he's writing us in again, and he opening it up and reading. If Zoro had his own crew, I'd be a part of that crew culture. Probably get into a lot of fights while hunting pirates, going around kicking some ASS, taking names, and running out of bubblegum. Constantly trying to be the best. Sounds fun. And so this is in reference to when we were talking about crew culture, and he was just saying that, like, Zoro would be the kind of person that he'd want to lead a crew culture that he'd be a part of. So I liked his awesome take on that, and it sounds like a lot of fun. It wouldn't be my crew culture, I don't think. I'm not taking fights, run around the town sort of person. But
you have plenty of bubblegum on you. Like, you never really run out of bubblegum, so you're all good.
No, yeah.
You have no reason to fight, right? I actually don't know where that reference is from. I just know that it's a reference to something that makes somebody cool when they say it.
Okay. No, I wasn't sure. I actually thought this might have been like a mild foreshadow of like a bubblegum chewing habit that Zoro was going to develop.
It has to be for something. The whole I'm here to either like kick butt or chew bubblegum, and I'm all out of bubblegum. Something like that. I don't know. Someone needs to correct us.
Hardcore.
Probably Christian, because he's the one who used the reference. So we'll wait for him to clear that up for us, I hope.
That's right. You can write us in with thoughts about the pod at grandlinetourist@gmail.com, or if you're Christian, you can just let us know what this bubblegum thing is, and we want to be able to understand.
All right, let's jump into it. Let's talk about today's itinerary. Jumping into it, aside from sliding down the slide that we don't have in the back of the ship that we don't own, what we're gonna go over today is, the fight picks back up with Buggy still flying over at Nami, who is currently in lieu of stealing his treasure. Luffy notices that, the bottom half of Buggy is not flying, the waist down. So what's he do? He kicks the groin. Which stops Buggy right in his tracks. Which, at that point, Buggy doesn't like, but Buggy argues with Nami, saying like, hey, why are you stealing my treasure? Nami's like, it's my treasure, I'm stealing it. Well, he's like, you're not stealing it, you're in lieu of stealing it. It's not yours until you successfully stole it. They have this fun little back and forth about the ownership of treasure and when it's officially stolen, which is, one of the greatest philosophical discussions that all of the great philosophical thinkers of the world have thought about.
When I signed on for this tour, I saw some fine print, and I think it discussed some of that in there. If I can get some of the food from the buffet fast enough, it becomes my food.
Right, exactly. But when is it technically yours? Is it a few steps after you've taken the food? Or is it when the food has decided that the ownership belongs to you? These are the deep questions Nami and Buggy were arguing. Regardless, They fight. Buggy in the middle of this fight gets annoyed after he's been kicked in the crotch because he realized like, oh, Luffy's fighting dirty, which Buggy's fighting dirty because he's fighting someone who's not even participating in the fight. So he goes and he turns on his Chop Chop Festival, which is just him breaking all of his limbs and his body into more multiple pieces flying around, causing a tornado of body parts and like slicing because he still has his knives. In this fight, Luffy finds out at least that his feet can't fly. So, there are some rules to Buggy's powers, which is that his feet have to stay planted. So, Luffy, like the creative genius he is, attacks his feet by tickling, by stubbing his toe, by pinching his heel. I've never knew pinching a heel can hurt so much, but it really annoys Buggy. At that point, Buggy gets really annoyed, calls him out, does one last move against Nami. Nami swings the gold into Buggy's face, which Buggy just kind of catches. I mean, it hits him, but he catches it.
It was impressive. I didn't expect it.
Yeah, and then he tries to do a counterattack, which is him stabbing Nami in the back while Nami's stuck holding the bag. Luffy comes at Buggy with his foot forward, smashes Buggy in the face, saves Nami. They celebrate. Luffy picks up the Grand Line map. They think it's all done, but Buggy wakes back up. Buggy's like, I'm ready to fight again. You're not leaving with my treasure. Buggy tries to put himself together, only to find out that Nami's actually tied pieces of his limbs, like his elbow, like, I don't know, like the long parts of his limbs.
Yeah. The easiest ones to grab, I think.
Yeah, whatever she could grab, she's tied it into a thing so they cannot reconnect with them, making a very small and cute Buggy, with his cape still in line. Like, his cape is still there, which is great. But he's
now
small.
It's like ready to be a blanket for Buggy,
Yeah, dude, like, he's small and a chibi. Yeah, a chibi was just another word for, like, cute, or, like, just kind of, like small little anime character-looking Buggy, to which we end the chapter with Luffy doing a Gum Gum Bazooka, smacking him out into the air, because, he's a lot lighter now. So, who knows where he's going to land. That's it.
No, and actually, just to start you off right there, Gum Gum Bazooka, I visually wasn't exactly sure where this lands when it hits Buggy, because he was stretching his arms backwards, right? Mm-hmm. Or was it stretching his body backwards with his arms? I couldn't quite get a good read on the visual.
Yeah, at least in the anime, it's him just knocking his hands back. It's like a back and then push. Like a whack, whack.
No, that reads fine. That makes sense. I wasn't totally sure because it's like pretty cool looking because it almost looks like he's ready to shoot some sort of like force ball, like a Hadouken out of his hands at that point. Right. But no, very cool. Gum Gum Bazooka.
It's just the force of his hands going way back and smacking it. I love how Buggy's like begging for him to stop at that moment. It's a fun little chapter. This chapter overall. It's a fun like closure to the fight. It's not as strategic as the breakdown from a few chapters ago, but it's still fun. What's your overall thoughts, Reed, on the chapter itself?
No, this was a really fun battle. I think it has a lot of visceral moments from a perspective of like, you got Buggy, getting hit in the crotch. I always cringe when I see something like that happen. And I actually cringed more when I noticed the like tips, the like, I don't know, the hooves of the feet. I'm not an anatomy person, but right, the part of your toe right next to the nail getting dragged into the ground. Like, oh my gosh, that is like that's like Breaking Bad level of torture right there. I mean, it's played for a quick laugh, but like that would hurt. That's actually Luffy went too far.
A piece of the discussion I wanted to talk about was apparently there are rules to these devil fruit powers, right? Like, I know I said it briefly in the itinerary, but like one of the rules for Buggy is that like his feet has to stay on the floor. Like, why couldn't they fly? Like, they just can't. Obviously, everything else can fly, but his feet have to stay planted, which I think is super funny because you kind of see the feet trying to walk away, right, at one point.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because for me, that detail didn't strike me as a particularly big nerf or like a big I mean, he's got all these other parts, right?
Yeah.
But I almost assumed Luffy would just be able to grab whichever parts he wanted to fight with anyway. Ultimately, maybe it comes into play, I don't know, if we see Buggy in the future, this like, because right now it was kind of like, it was dropped in the same chapter that like weakness was used, which it's kind of, you don't get a lot of like, I like the kind of a little bit joy of anticipating something like, oh, this makes sense in the world and it kind of fits. This was kind of just a quick one, I totally get it. And it led to some horrendous foot torture. But
yes.
Just curious, would you say that you're a sensitive foot guy? Like everyone can usually get tickled on their feet. But
tickling
some people are very sensitive. Like some people, you barely stub their toe and they start screaming,
Oh man, I have stubbed my toe before, but I guess I'm not super sensitive. I do get a lot of foot cramps sometimes. Not a lot, but I have, and those are the worst. You know how people have like major cramps in like certain parts of their body? Like for me, it's my feet, and I think and that hurt it hurts like a pain, like the inside of my foot up to my big toe. But that's a little piece of you guys learned a little bit about Eric there, so. The more you know.
Yeah, so this is probably, we're going to get into his social media account somehow. We got the C for his middle initial. We got, look for the security questions about pain relating to foot cramps. We're in. Take this tour over.
Yeah, let's see. The other thing I wanted to kind of talk about, which is just, again, me doing my tour guide thing and jumping in way too deep on probably something that probably doesn't mean anything. But
no, it's interesting. I almost can't imagine what it was for this particular chapter, so I'm really excited.
Okay.
This is a fun chapter. Like to be honest, I have to give you props. I really liked the reference you made to Chibi already.
Yeah.
That like squished art style. I didn't think of it, but it actually gave like an excuse to have that art style be in the reality of One Piece,
yes.
This is what it would look like, it's not like, this isn't like a cutaway to a Chibi style. This is a character looking as if they're in Chibi style, making sense in the world of the story, which is, I didn't think of that until you mentioned it, so I thought that's really cool. You're about to wow me again, apparently, with something else.
Man, if you like that chibi little nugget that I dropped earlier, which is like an art style that I do enjoy from time to time. Especially if it's like a lot, it's just it's fun. It's a fun little cute thing. I'll admit it. I'm a man enough to admit that I like chibi stuff.
I've seen it used a lot for like cutaway to some sort of yelling scene or intense emotion. Sometimes some of the Nami cutaways where she yells at Luffy looks a little bit in that style. So yeah.
Yeah, it's just a fun little cutesy little thing that kind of like a way to de-escalate the intensity of something, which I think is definitely a technique. I wrote down a fight for gold, Nami versus Buggy, and both of their obsession over treasure. And the thought I was putting into it is that essentially both of them almost lose their fight. But in the case of Buggy, he did lose this fight because of treasure, right? Because of his obsession with his treasure and keeping his treasure. He lost, and Nami almost lost because she wouldn't let go of the treasure fight of the bag, right? Which I think is interesting because it's both of these characters who are both very obsessive about gold, fighting over the treasure, over the booty, and it leads to their Buggy's demise, but not so much Nami. But I thought it was kind of cool to kind of see that Nami goes from like running away with the gold to fighting to keep the gold to using the gold to fight back. At which case, is actually what Buggy wanted, and Buggy was kind of baiting her into it, or maybe not so much. It just happened to fall on his lap that he was going to take it back. But I did want to put it out there that she doesn't really do the really cool move, which is tying his limbs together, until after she loses the gold. Until the gold's spilled.
Yeah, no, I guess that's a good point. She is sort of not at her full capacity when she's obsessed with the gold. When she has it in her hands, she's trying to run away with it. Not as useful. And then the second, she gives it up. She does. I really did enjoy the rope callback because there's a line in one of the early chapters I always have a rope on me. Yeah. There it is again.
Yeah.
And it came. This was a great way to I think defeat Buggy.
Yeah, and I think so too. I think that was really cool. I think it was kind of cool to see them both lose it over the gold, which I thought was a really cool end to this fight. Which is of course it would be. Of course, Buggy wouldn't finish the fight because he's obsessed about losing his gold. He is that possessive of his gold, of his wealth in that way. And it was just, it's kind of like that thing about greed, how greed is could be the downfall. It's it feels like a moral story in that sense of if you obsess too much about money will kick your butt, in a way.
No, and I really also, in regards to this, I was thinking about Nami as a character we haven't seen fully progressed yet because she lost the gold because she tried to swing with it, right? She wasn't really trying to give the gold back, or in order, she wasn't willing to give it up yet. So I am starting to have some doubts about Nami fitting into or being ideal for, to bring it back to what Christian was talking about earlier, Luffy's crew culture, crew culture in general. So I don't, obsession with money doesn't, in my books, fit in with what I imagine Luffy's true culture to be.
Is about, yeah.
Not sure though. I mean, maybe Luffy's a little bit like, oh, I'm okay with whatever you're obsessed with. I don't think so, especially when it's at the cost of other things, right? Like getting in the way of a fight that he was having to some extent. These are core tenets of pirates that I feel like doesn't quite work yet. And Luffy hasn't really called it out. I wonder if he's going to at some point, or if he's gonna let Nami come to her own somehow. But I wouldn't say she's done it yet.
Right. I agree. I agree with that assessment 100% right now, because that is what it looks like. Like, not yet. Yeah, you're right. Like, your obsession of gold almost got you killed. Like, she almost died. Yeah. Right? If Luffy didn't step in at that last moment, because I don't know how Buggy did it. I don't really quite know the physics of him looping his hands around to stab her. Right? While
what? Oh, okay. I didn't know either, except when this is another little detail. In that panel, I do believe what happened was she swings it at him. He catches it with his hands. He then proceeds to, she's trying to pull it back. I think he bites it with his mouth.
Oh, and it does kind of look like that. Then the hands
can go behind. There's one panel where it looks like he might be biting it with his mouth, and I think he's going around to kind of, possibly stab Nami. I think that's how he's pulling it off, because he does need to be engaging with the pulling so that he can then sneak around and get to her. Mm-hmm. So I think maybe that's it. But yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that too. It does kind of look like he is. You can argue that he's biting it. That makes sense. That's the only other, I don't know, piece of his body at that point that can grip the bag. Which is his mouth.
At least that we see in that panel, right? Like, there's no. I mean, he has lots of other body parts, but I don't see anything there helping him pull against Nami.
We'll have to watch just this the one episode of this chapter for the anime and see how Toei Animation interpreted these panels, this section of the fight. That's essentially all I got for this chapter, for chapter 20.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much all I got for this chapter as well. But did you want to take a moment to crack through a few of the best jokes?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Oh, good. Just making sure.
I think this was.
Maybe one day you're just gonna get tired of the bit. Maybe the tour guide's gonna be like, I don't want to do it today. But
yeah,
you got
today
that
I'm
unflappable
sad.
attitude.
No jokes. I wonder if there ever gonna be a chapter when OP doesn't have any jokes and we're just gonna be sad boys and just kind of cry.
I personally doubt it based so far, but maybe we get some really tragic stuff going on in the future.
Yeah, that's very possible. Actually, thinking ahead with my tour guide knowledge, thinking ahead, there might be. Places that aren't funny, unless we revel in the tragedy that makes us laugh. What is comedy but tragedy plus time?
What is comedy but tragedy plus time?
Yeah.
That's a good quote.
There you go. Then Eric Vu.
I'm gonna get up my.
It's definitely not. I have no idea who came up with that, but I've been told that.
I'm gonna get my tour journal. Write that one down. Take that one home with me.
We already talked a lot about the jokes that I liked, but did you want to start off with one at all?
I didn't have too many verbally written jokes in this chapter. I basically had a list of visual gags.
Yeah.
And so I think I'll just tell you my favorite, and then we've already hit a bunch of the other ones. But I think the rope callback was my favorite in this chapter.
That is a good one. I didn't even write that one down, but that one's such a good clever one.
Seeing the payoff of something that I thought was funny before happen again and be useful, I was like, right on.
Yeah, dude, it's good writing. I think he did such a good job. It's so clean. This whole arc.
Yeah.
Which is great. Which is the arc from, if you all are wondering, chapter 8 to chapter 21, which will all end when we talk about the next chapter. My favorite, all the visual gags. I think everything he does to Buggy's lower body is great. For the kick to the groin, to the feet. I just think it's just such a fun little joke. Even as a kid, if I was a kid reading it, I'd be like, that's hilarious. Even as an adult, I think it's hilarious because the logic works out for me. Yeah. Oh yeah, his lower half I guess has to stay there, and he just left it open for Luffy to mess around with. So, and Buggy is also, he looks like a clown and he makes the best facial expressions when he's hurt. So it works out.
Oh yeah, solid stuff.
And then we also talked about it, but Chibi Buggy is great.
Yeah, that would be my second favorite one of the chapter is Tiny Buggy.
And I also like that he doesn't realize that his pieces are gone until he's already together. You know what I mean? He's like, "What's happening?" Which is hilarious.
It's true. It must mean in a lot of fights he's gotten away with his ability. Must just overwhelm a lot of combatants, right?
Oh,
and
yeah.
So once you get a chance to actually deal with him, it's actually it's got a lot of downside. Especially the way Buggy's wielding it, which is pretty aggressive. He's not aware of all the other parts, but he can feel what happens to them. So it's a rough way to go.
Yeah, it's kind of like what we talked about earlier in the arc too, about how like not a lot of people in the East Blue has seen these powers, so there's no way like people aren't gonna know. Obviously he's taking advantage of that, just how Luffy's taking advantage of that. But this is the first time where I think he's seeing some of the downfalls of his power, which is character building. He's learning a lot from this interaction.
All right.
That's everything I have for all the ha-has this week. Anything for you?
No. I think I'm ready to have a little character development myself in regards to my ability to destroy you in a very fun section of our podcast entitled The Panel Battle. This is where Eric and myself bring our favorite panel of the chapter, the one that speaks to us the most, and they go head-to-head in a little standoff that we may or may not have far too much of our personal pride and just every bit of ourselves and just all into this, right? I if I don't feel like I've won these, if I don't feel like I've given it my all, I don't have a good night's rest. It's no good. But
that's not good. That's not healthy at all, Jacob.
I'm sorry. I revealed it here. Now it's good. We'll be able to chat it out after this, and you could give me some tips. So even when my inevitable defeat by a far greater One Piece aficionado than myself.
That only happened once. In fairness, that's only happened once. Every other fight has been a stalemate, and we know that because no one's voting. No one's letting us know who's winning. So it's all been stalemates. If you like, Jacob, I would like to start this week.
Do it. Send me your...
Or this chapter. I should say chapter.
Oh, yeah. No, because it could be any weekend. Anyone's like, oh, my goodness. I love this panel. This is a great one. This is when Nami has been dealing with Buggy. She finally needs to do something to deal with him. And we have is you, which is, it must be completing the phrase before, which is something along the lines. The one that needs to, can't quite remember exactly.
The one who's going to cut it out is you.
Is you. And then she, we kind of have a, lower shot looking upward at her swinging the gigantic bag of gold straight into Buggy's floating face and cape and everything, and big onomatopoeia letters in the back. Bonk. It's this is an awesome panel. She just looks, I think it's one of the first huge action moments with Nami that really, we got a lot with really only Luffy. Like, there's not a lot of other characters that have gotten big action panels yet. Zoro's gotten a few.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, no, Zoro's got some. I think Luffy's are just a lot more dynamic. Zoro's got, the gritty ones. He always is going to have the ones where he's bleeding out and he's going to...
There's blood everywhere. And it's usually his sword. Own blood. Yeah.
This is another, physical, character doing, a classic thing that I can kind of feel the weight, how she would have to kind of go under to lift this thing up in order to hit Buggy. Very impressive. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I do too. You've named everything that I liked about this panel. I think it's cool to see.
Yeah, the only one thing I'm looking now, is there a treasure falling out of the bag, next to that is you? I don't think I noticed.
So,
is that a watch? Or an earring?
Think so.
That's pretty cool. I didn't notice that the first time. There's some falling treasure coming out of the bag.
Pearls coming out of it too, right? A necklace is coming out of the handle of it. Cool little detail.
No, very well chosen. This was very close to being my own, but it didn't make the cut because there's a clearly superior panel. And if you, dear tourist or tour guide yourself out there, want to chime in, feel free. grandlinetourist@gmail.com. We might talk about it in the Letters at Port section of our podcast. So feel free to reach out. But Eric, what do you see in the panel that I've prepared for you?
Which one is it?
This is going to be the lower right panel.
The lower right.
Yes.
This is a panel with it kind of works in conjunction with the other panels, which is really fun. Which is the I keep forgetting that the term that we use, which is the there and back again, or shot reverse shot back sort of deal.
Oh, okay, shot reverse shot. So somewhere not this is, you're not talking about the back of the ranch thing, right? This is not that.
No. This is more of a shot reverse shot because it's clearly kind of the continuation of the panel, two panels before it, and they're kind of stacked on top of each other, which is kind of cool to see for the panel layout. But in the panel that Jacob has chosen specifically, it's Buggy saying "arg," and I think Nami saying "yeah," and then in onomatopoeia it says "ouch," which is because Buggy is reacting to the pain of Luffy purposely stubbing his toe on the ground.
Yeah.
of Buggy's
No,
toe on
this
the
is the
ground.
one that I thought was the most painful. I think he's sort of like pushing it into the ground, like the concrete, and dragging that part of the toes on it.
Yeah.
Thus causing the ouch panel that I picked for this panel.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what this is. But I love that panel, but it really does work. The coolness of it is because it works in conjunction because 2 panels before, we have Buggy kind of chasing Nami, right? In a threatening way. All right, because this is after he does his festival, so there's limbs flying around, there's chaos and everything, and Nami's like running in fear. And then the next panel is Luffy very calmly running his feet through the floor, running his toes through the floor.
No, he's sitting cross-legged. Like, look how casual that is. He's in the most epic fight of his life. Sits down, grabs a foot, cross-legged.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's brilliant. And that's a very good panel. Sadly, though, I think mine still wins because mine's only one panel. I think your panel's great in conjunction with the other 2 panels before.
Well, I have to admit, you are right that my panel does get some points, like some props, if you consider it with that other panel. You got that nice closure. You can like look at the one and look at the other, and it looks like almost you can see the mouth closing and you can see the action happening. But did you consider how much Buggy's head just kind of looks like a steam engine? Did you notice like the nose and the smoke escaping from it due to the pain? I got like Thomas the Tank Engine vibes from this
it is
heading
great.
towards the front of the panel.
And his teeth, and the way his teeth kind of form like a grill. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, it kind of forms that front that kind of clears the debris on the tracks out of the way. I think Buggy as a train has a fighting shot at least.
I also like the panel, the next panel right after the panel you chose, which is you're a tough old clown with Luffy pinching his like right above his heel, like that piece.
This is the one where like. Yeah, no, I've never, it's almost like I don't have a good gauge on how much that hurts because I've never seen it done. I've never done it to myself.
I didn't either.
It's
It made me think of it as like a Japanese thing, which could be. Who knows? Maybe that's a thing that you pinch little kids on when you're telling them to stop misbehaving.
Very good.
Oh, who knows? Who knows?
We're
Someone let us
becoming
know.
hypothetically culturally enlightened, which is always good.
Yes. Well, I mean, I think this one's been a good week of this fight. We just have to wait to see if Christian thinks that we're right or he throws in his own panel.
Oh yeah, we'll see.
We'll see then. Well,
now,
you know what?
I was
Why
gonna
don't
say,
you huh?
Yeah, no, you often pick. I'm stepping in here.
Okay.
You took away my slip and slide, so I'm gonna take away your choice of onomatopoeia, and I'm gonna say, inspired by my very own panel of choice. We're gonna both be some caricature. How do you say that word?
Caricature.
You know what word? Caricature. There's a caricature. Okay, we're gonna be caricatures of ourselves as steam engines. Chasing down the thief that just stole all of our money, and now we can't afford to get into that buffet. So that's very upsetting to us.
Yes.
So yeah, lots of hiss, steam, noise, all that sort of stuff. So on
all right, let's do it.
On the count of 3. 1,
okay.
2, 3.